Hello everyone and welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with Maya Kazir and with our guest. This is Mariangela Matarozzo and I'm the Artistic Director of the International Festival Virtual Reality Experience, completely dedicated to XR and how the immersive technologies are used in culture, arts, science, industry, such as international cooperation and also religion, we can say. The aim of the festival is to explore this impact and to propose to our audience a program with a selection of the cutting-edge artworks coming from all over the world. Among our different projects we are working on, I'm thrilled to introduce you a new one project carried out in collaboration with the Israeli Embassy. It's very amazing, Maya, to work with you, to share with you our thoughts, our idea about innovation, about culture, about art. And this is very, very important for us. And it was very important for define building this project. Gaming, Culture, Heritage, Arts, Learning is the title of this project. That is a mini cycle of 3 panels where Israeli and Italian speakers present what is going on, education, contemporary art and cultural heritage. Today we are going to talk about e-learning, about e-learning and gamification, a new approach, a new cognitive approach. And we have with us Hanan, Yaniv, Cristina Pozzi, and Simone Arcagni. Thanks for being here. Thanks for accepting our invite. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to the culture attaché, Maya Kazir. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you all for joining our second conversation, this time about gaming and education, as you said. So yes, I present myself again. I'm the cultural attaché at the Israeli Embassy in Rome. And before saying a few words in regard to today's topic, I'd like to thank Mariangela Matarozzo, founder and director of Virtual Reality Experience, and Marina Massaro, project manager, with whom we had, as you said, some very interesting discussions that led to the co-organization of this series of conversation, and with whom we are always happy to collaborate. As a cultural attaché, I often ask myself about the relationship between culture and education. Is culture supposed to educate? Is culture, in fact, educating? The answer that currently seems to me as the most accurate is that culture, at its best, actually educates when it doesn't intend to do so. An ideological culture which tries to convince or to convey an educational message, is not only less interesting, but also less effective. Well, it seems to me that a similar thing can be said about games. A game is fun when it doesn't have to educate, or at least when teaching is not its only purpose. Bearing that in mind, it becomes now quite urgent to watch if and how the new gaming technologies are changing this relationship between education and games. How has the virtual reality, for example, or augmented reality changed the teaching process? How did it change the learning process? Is education still taking place in the classroom? And how all changes modify the relationship between the teacher and the students? As an ex-lecturer who has been a part of Israeli education system, I learned from my personal experience how much both teachers and students long for a change. But I can also testify of the difficulties of the educational system to adapt to changes. I'm sure that the two wonderful experts, our guests, Cristina Pozzi and Hanan Yaniv, will shed light on these issues, and I'm very happy to be a student of both of them, both of you today. Simone Arcagni is our moderator. Please, Simone, prego.
Thank you, and welcome. My name is Simone Arcagni. I am a professor at the University of Palermo. My field of research are new media, new technologies, and digital culture. I am honored, really, to have been invited to moderate this VRE talk entitled E-Learning, Gamification, and VR, a new cognitive approach. So thank you to Mariangela Matarozzo and the festival and Maya Kazir. And welcome to our guests, Cristina Pozzi and Hanan Yaniv. Just 2 words to introduce the guests. Cristina Pozzi is Impactscool co-founder and CEO. And Cristina is a social entrepreneur engaged in the future of education and in education about the future. Cristina is a young global leader of the World Economic Forum 2019-2024 and a European Young Leader 2020. She also author of Benvenuti nel 2050, sorry, is in Italian, but with the translation that is called Destination 2050. Hanan Yaniv is associate professor at Seminar Akibutzim School of Education and Afeka Engineering College. Developer and researcher of learning models and environments enhanced by state-of-the-art technologies. Hanan Yaniv has various and significant university experience all over the world. From 2004, Hanan co-directed the Pedagogical Innovations Research Lab and the Faculty of Education at the University of Calgary, Canada. Just 2 words before their very important voice, just 2 words for an introduction. During the lockdown and during the COVID emergency, we realized how the economic system, but also the cultural system and the educational system needs digital infrastructures and technologies. And we need more and more, in Italy above all. We have perhaps definitely realized that we live in a digital world and that we are increasingly involved in it. Our purposes are to define its boundaries and orient it. And above all, in educational field, understanding what emerging technologies are, how we can best use them, and what impacts we want to achieve. And so I therefore ask the question to our guests. Please, Cristina, you are the first. Thank you.
Well, thank you also by my side for inviting me today to talk about a topic I'm really passionate about, education and new technology. That, as you said, Simone, this is what I've been working on with Impactscool, trying to educate as many students as possible about new emerging technologies, and also to think about how these technologies can be of help for us to solve the great challenges that we are facing today. And they can really support us in the transition to a different and better world. If you want to reflect how we want to build a new, better world and how to use those and these technologies. But first of all, we need to know about these technologies. So that is why my activity is focused also on educating about it in order to make people able to really work together and to participate to the construction of the new and better future. Having said so, let me start from something that we are all talking about actually during this time, but we have also been talking about before the pandemic, because as you said, Simone, the pandemic somehow put us in front of a truth that was already there, that this is a digital world, that we need digitalization for a lot of things that we are already doing, and that digitalization can help us also to move forward. But also digitalization is transforming already our world. And that is why somehow, and sometimes it's very difficult also to transition, because it's not evenly distributed all around our society. So not everybody has the same access to digitalization. But now we are in a situation in which this digitalization is accelerating because of the current situation. And so more than before is urgent to talk about how we want to use it in order to enable everyone to participate. So first of all, we live in a world that is being disrupted by many technologies. And mainly, we talk about a lot of the impact of artificial intelligence and automation that is changing what we need to know in order to live and understand our society, and also to have a job in the future society we will be living into. So talking about education, of course, we are thinking about not only how to educate someone to get a job. This is, of course, an important part, but it's also how to educate new citizens who can live in our new world in the future and can understand the world they're living in. So we need to give a lot of different tools, not only the ability to work with technology and to find a job in the new scenario that we are going to live in the next years. Having said so, what we need is a complete flip in the way we build the curriculum in our schools. So we need both an update in knowledge, of course, but we also need a new methodology in order to focus also on new skills, on experiences, on giving our pupils the ability to transfer what they learn in a field into another. That is something that is very important in the world we are living in today, because it means we are able to learn forever or in all our life. And it means that we can reinvent ourselves. We can switch from one area of expertise to another, because we have the ability to transfer our comprehension of the world. And these new methodologies need some help and can be enabled by the tools that technology is giving us. So technology is in this system both the disruptor of the society we're going to live in, but also the enabler to disrupt also the way we educate our children. So let me just show you a video, and let's start from there, because we talk a lot about how technology can be used in education, and maybe we can have a taste of how it could be used, and start from there in understanding why it could be interesting to switch to something like that. So let me share this video with you. Here we are.
Wow. My school's awesome. We're always doing cool stuff like this. Us kids have minds like sponges. We're just waiting to soak up everything around us. We're naturally curious and love to dive in and figure out how things work. A true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. I didn't say that. Albert did. Of course, you can't see imagination, but you can see what happens when it's let out. You can explore anywhere you want and help you meet new people from all over the world. Where do you live? Like my best friend Alice. She's from Australia. I think it's pretty early there, so she's probably sleeping.
Sydney, Australia is 19 hours ahead of San Francisco, California.
Thought so. Thanks, Dot. That was Dot, my AI assistant. We've all got one. They go everywhere with us, helping us learn and explore.
Hey, Millie. I know you're busy, but your history project on Madame Curie is due in 17 hours. I'll remind you again later.
Okay. Sometimes the answers aren't right there in front of you. You have to dig a little, because there's usually more than one way to solve a problem.
Oh, wow.
My teacher, Mrs. Garcia, says it's good to take everything at your own speed. And don't be afraid to get things wrong once in a while. After all, mistakes are proof that you're trying. She says sometimes it just takes a little time before it all makes sense. So, I've still got loads to learn and ways to go, because it takes a long time to get educated. No matter what though, I know that when it's my turn to help make the world work, I'll be ready.
So what I love about this video is that the girl in it is learning in a very open and interactive environment, and is learning guided by her own curiosity, helped by a lot of different tools. But also you can see a lot of other students working together. So there is also socialization. Also the social interaction is part of the old system. But also what I love about the video is that it is something that just shows us technologies that are already there. These are all technologies that we are already working on, that are available for us. And actually this is also a video that has already 3 years. So of course we can really move forward to that direction. But of course it's not only what the technologies can do, but it is how we design the system. And what we can do today is try to design it in order to enhance all the things that we are learning from neurosciences. So today we know that we learn better through, of course, immersive experiences, and when we follow our curiosity and our interests. And also we can learn a lot through game. So when we play, there are a few things that are very interesting and important in order to learn better, because we're more open to take risks. And we also saw that in the video that I showed you. When we are playing, somehow we are, as I said, more open to take any risk. We can get mistakes, but then we're used to lose a life and get another, and try to evolve in the game. If we have the right, of course, system helping us to have objectives that we can really get to, that still are challenges for us and that can make us grow. And also gaming can help us to develop some interpersonal skills that are very important for us. Of course, also in the context that we were talking about in the opening. In fact, we can develop our own growth mindset, meaning that we know that if we have mistakes and we fail at something, we can still learn and get better, because we are able to learn new things. And through gaming and through the ability to fail in a learning environment that is built to do so in a way that we are open to to fail, also helps us to develop this very important skill. It means that if you are used to get to hear, your kids saying, but I'm not good in mathematics, I cannot do it, and I will never be able to, they can change the perspective, because if they have a growth mindset, they know that they can learn and they can get better, even in something that initially seems very difficult for them. And of course, you learn to experiment, you learn to innovate. So game and the game in a gaming environment is a place where we can do all these things in a safe mode, because we're used to use game as a place where we can risk and we can also experiment new things and be someone else. So it's a very interesting environment in order to learn new things. Also, actually, our brain incentivizes us to solve problems and understand and interpret patterns as we usually do in games. So this also gives us a lot of motivation to grow and learn more. And of course, if we are enjoying ourselves, also there is more attention in what we are doing. And this is also a very important part in education. Right now, we are still stick with a lot of just knowledge transmission without interaction in class. And of course, this does not help to get the attention of the kids. Also because they come from a world outside of the classroom where everything is interactive, where everything is an experience, where they can be immersed in everything that they are doing and be part of what is happening. And that doesn't happen in school and class. So if we use games, if we use new immersive technologies, we can have all that and use that in order to learn better. And also there is another very interesting thing about immersive experiences that we can create through new technologies. We are making everything more tangible. So we are using more senses in what we are learning. And this helps a lot, of course, to get the brain to learn new things. And also we are attaching everything we are learning with emotions. And this is also very important because emotions are a very important enabler to make our brain learn and remember new things. Of course, if there are good emotions, it's much better. That is, in fact, why sometimes we say we are not good in mathematics, as I was saying before, because maybe we link the experience of something that we don't know how to do with frustration, and then that frustration is coming out every time we sit down in order to do that same activity. So it's very important to have good emotions while we are in a learning environment. And through gaming and immersive experiences, we can really build an environment where the good emotions are linked to what we're learning. And so we can also enhance this kind of process. Of course, as I said, we need exploratory learning experiences. So as I said, of the video, I really like the fact that there is an open system to jump into and to use in order to learn new things. And this is a very important thing to focus on, because right now there are also a lot of new AI-based systems that are coming out that can be impressive tools for educations, but sometimes they can be very closed and standardized. And so we really need to be sure that we are using systems that can help our kids to learn in a very, very open environment. And we can do it with basic technologies also, of course, so we don't need to have all the sets for VR or things that maybe right now are not already in schools, because sometimes we can just use very easy systems that are available online for building escape rooms or other kind of games that are interactive online. And we can also make the kids participate into building this kind of games as a means also for their learning activity. So learning how to build a video game may be about some historical facts that they need to learn. It's much better than giving them a lecture in a traditional way about those historical facts, for example. So we really can get creative, and we don't need, as I said, complicated technologies. We can start off with what we have, But of course, we need to have a goal to improve and to use much better all the technologies that are now available for us. What is important is that when we approach the use of technologies in education, we do it keeping in mind that it's not about doing the same things that we have been doing offline, but just with a new tool. But it's about changing the methodology, changing the approach, because we have something different in our hands that can help us to do things in a very different way. I usually make an example. I come from photography before digital photography, and when I switched to a digital reflex camera, I started thinking in different ways of using the camera, because I understood I could do different things having a digital photograph. And this is a very stupid but very easy example in order to understand how it is different to think differently what we are about to do, because we are using a different tool. And this is also a very big obstacle right now, because it's not very easy to do this kind of switch. We really need to educate a lot the teachers in order to make them able to use in the right way the tools that technology can give us in order to improve our education.
Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you.
I am writing a lot of things. Sorry, in analogical way, but I think it's the same. I'm writing some keywords that I like: exploring, interactive, immersive. But the video was amazing, and the path you describe I like very much, because it's not just technologies, but is focused on new methodologies and new methodologies in order to help sharing and access. Other two very important keywords in my opinion. But now I am very curious to hear the voice of Hanan Yaniv and the opinion, and the microphone is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you a story about a kid, 9 years old. His name is Uri, and he is my grandson, one of my grandsons. And he's spending a lot of his time facing a screen. As we all know, parents today are very much alarmed by the idea that children are spending so much time in front of screens instead of going and meeting with friends, but they are forced to do so because of the corona, the COVID-19 thing. And we are facing with a new need in education. Suddenly, children need to stay and learn by themselves a lot, or do that against the screen, being at home. And so we are shifting our focus from content-based education onto student-based education. Suddenly, we are not so concerned about content. You know, they're talking about canceling this year's matriculation exams because children did not have the proper grounds to study for them. So what they are doing now is they are talking about what do we need to teach children? So let's go back to Uri. Uri is sitting in front of a screen, and he is enjoying himself mainly by playing a game called Minecraft. Now, Minecraft is a game of virtual reality. It's a game of three-dimensional, non-immersive technology. He's playing as an avatar, a character that represents himself in the 3D world. And doing that, he's learning English, because most game is in English. And he's learning strategy planning, and he's learning 3D construction, and he's learning to work with others because he's collaborating with gamers around the world, playing it. He's learning it himself. Nobody forced or showed him how to learn it. Okay, he's doing it on his own. He discovered it on YouTube. So the idea of the world of Uri as we see him today is definitely not guided by a teacher or a school. Uri spent over a year, almost a year at home, facing a screen this year. I don't know if you know about that type of closure, but in Israel, most kids spent the last year at home. And so now I'm asking myself, what guides Uri? What brings him into that type of learning, of motivation? Think of how much energy Uri is showing in that total process of so many hours spending a learning by himself from YouTube and from friends, and sharing and learning and playing and constructing and strategizing. Amazing, okay? We hope for that energy in everything we learn, okay? So I'm going to talk about energy. This is my main, I'd say, topic of interest. My main focus in all my studies, and most of my studies I've done alone, because I couldn't face the system being brought up into. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't bear the boredom. I couldn't really cope. I was kicked out of high school by grade 10. Okay, there was no energy for me there. I did play a lot with electronics, just by myself. I built a small lab at home while I was 13, but nobody could understand this as learning. All they knew is that I cannot face the requirements of school. So they were constantly sore about me, disappointed. So what I want to show you is that there's new hope now, but the hope is not necessarily related on systems. The change that we are facing is not coming from above. When we are talking about education systems, there's a total mistrust between the education system today and the Israeli people. There's a sense of total failure. Okay, so I'm not going to criticize the education system in Israel now, although I would like very much to do so. But what I'm trying to do is to show you that there's another way, and it will come from kids. Let me show you a screen. Okay, what we see is Pokemon, right? Remember him? Or something like Pokemon. This is changing the world. Now, Cristina has shown us some examples in her video of children learning with using augmented reality. Okay? This is augmented reality, but there's no learning apparent here. There's no apparent learning. We see a guy who is using his phone through the camera to see a virtual world, something that does not exist in front of him, but it's suddenly a part of his world. That idea of relationship between the real world and the virtual world suddenly become a part of everything we can do. And why do we need that is because of something that I'm going to show you using a different screen. Okay, it's a bit small. I'll read it for you because it's kind of tiny. But the idea is that while we are being able to relate between the virtual world and the real world in learning, we need to be concerned about other things. The main thing is, where is energy coming from? Now, Robert Malone, I'm talking 1985, was already stated in his dissertation, calling it towards a theory of intrinsic motivation, the importance of the relationship between the content and the task, the game. Okay, if you play a game, even if you want to call it a learning game, you need to show behind the learning part how much of a game is it really. What type of energy does it generate? And so I'm going to enhance Malone's theory of intrinsic motivation, talk about the need or authentic need of knowledge as becoming the part of what is really important to create a game that will draw the energy of kids to be a part of. So here we have the idea of a plot, a task, and content. I'm going to argue that the intrinsic relationship between a plot, a task, and the content are required in order to create meaningful need for knowledge to be used and transferred later on as we call meaningful learning. The idea is that I'm talking about the need for energy in places in which energy is not necessarily there. For example, why would children need to learn mathematics? Why would they want to learn mathematics? What would bring them to learn mathematics? Failing in mathematics most of these years. Why would they want even to be there? And so in order to get children to learn mathematics, we need to think of learning in a different way. We're used to learning as we are in colleges or universities, teaching our students, right? We have a curriculum and we have a lesson plan and we are planning and we are showing them content. We are pouring content onto them. The energy that we need is different. The energy that we need is the one that we will bring in by getting them to require and need to solve a task. So if I were to replan mathematics, I would learn mathematics or teach mathematics if you want, if it's needed at all. Well, definitely arithmetic is needed. Like I would definitely teach arithmetic in a market, making the need for arithmetic a survival need. If children need mathematics in order to survive, play a game that is important to them, they will be able to learn without the idea of learning mathematics. So the idea of learning by not necessarily focused on what you're learning, but doing something that is really important or enjoying for you to do, is the energy that this kind of model is talking about. The idea that we are learning without really being aware that we are learning. We are playing, we are working on a task. You mentioned, Cristina, you mentioned escape rooms. Escape rooms are the source of energy that I'm looking for, because playing an escape room, building an escape room, I've been building escape rooms with my students because I feel that the authentic need generated by the need to develop these ideas, these tasks, these plans or plots is so energizing that they would put as many hours needed in order to make a meaningful system, okay? So the idea of plot is to generate some form of relationship between me and the adventure of life, me and the adventure of learning, me and the adventure of being there. If I can generate that sense, I'll get most kids to participate. Now, you were showing there in the video, you were showing space objects. I myself, Hanan, yes, I'm not interested in space objects. If you are trying to show me as beautiful space objects as you can show them, I would still be just amazed by the sight. I will not be looking into learning about what is the mass on Mars. But if you were to put me on Mars and tell me survive here, then I would definitely need that knowledge to play the game and survive on Mars. So that's the idea of making knowledge a need of necessity. So if we are talking about the plot that puts us on Mars, we are talking about the tasks of surviving there, requiring knowledge that we can feed in through the content required by curriculum. So here I'm showing you a different approach to curriculum. Curriculum cannot be poured into students. They don't have the energy, most of them don't have the energy to need it. What we are showing here is the idea that content can be made into a need to survive, to perform important tasks, to fill out, be a part of a required or acquired mission. So that idea of intrinsic relationship between these three components, plot, task, and content, are generated by the user interface to that environment. And that user interface, as Pokemon, or as children in the forest facing a beautiful, artistic, colorful butterfly, this can be achieved via technologies that we have available to us today, as you said, Cristina. This is really available today. The idea is that preparing content for that, you see, I've been trying to teach my students building escape rooms. I've been trying to teach them to do that relationship, to be aware and responsible for this type of a relationship to exist between the plot, the task, and the content. It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. Most of escape rooms that I see today have no relationship to the plot. They have tasks, okay, you're solving problems, but you're not really aware of what is around you, and that what is around you is creating the atmosphere to be there, the real experience. So you are missing on it. You are missing a lot of energy. So what I claim, and I want to, I don't know, how much time do I still have, Simon? 5 minutes? Okay. So what I'm claiming is that for us today to exploit the COVID opportunity, we need to use it as a Trojan horse. We need to bring it into the system saying, look, children are now learning on their own. Let's use that. Let's, instead of run away from it, shunning it, let's use it. Let's take it, make it into, I'll release the screen. Let's make it into our, our goal. This is the goal of education. You see, in the Israeli law of education, of public education, matriculation exams are not mentioned even. The idea that school should prepare children for higher academics is not even mentioned. Or screen students for academics isn't even mentioned. Out of 11 items, only 3.5 are dealing with content. All the rest are dealing with culture, with values, with the sense of being a citizen, with social responsiveness, etc. Let's use that to bring us back into the law of education, because this is the real sense of democracy. If we have a law of education and we haven't changed it, let's follow it. In order to do that, we need to listen to it. We need to really read between the lines and understand what did they mean by saying bringing someone to become a lifelong learner. You don't make someone into a lifelong learner by grading him, by forcing imposed curriculum onto him if he's interested or not, or her, okay? So you can make lifelong learners by getting children to like to learn and using this type of technologies connecting between games, plots, tasks, and content can bring them to become Uri. I'm returning to Uri, my grandson, who is playing on his own with friends around the world, using Pokemon or using a Minecraft to construct new worlds in 3D. Okay, so let me pause here. I hope that we can talk, that we will have some feedback and questions to talk, because I couldn't follow the Italian in the chat window.
Thank you, Hanan. Yaniv. First of all, thank you for remembering me the time lost playing Pokemon Go some years ago. too much. And no, thank you for other keywords very important for me. Content-based and student-based education. This dialectics is very important in my opinion. And then the importance you focused on the theme of plot. That remember me the role of storytelling in our society, in our digital society, the opportunities of new kind of storytelling, for example, using social media or other things. And then I completely agree. It seems strange to say, but I completely agree, the COVID opportunities. Yes, because in education, in this new process of thinking digital technologies that COVID raised up, we need to be agree with this. So I would like to ask you something, just one thing, very fast. We need a new school. We need a new approach to education. We need to use serious game, and so the gamification. We need to have give a new role for immersive technologies, what we call the XR, so VR, AR, MR, etc. But how to start? If you are now, in this day, the new Minister of School and Educational, Cristina in Italy, and Hanan Yaniv in Israel, the first steps, the first law and the second, to help this changement. Cristina.
Well, talking about Italian schools, I think the very first thing would be to use an open school model, because we really need to have the schools collaborating with their own communities. And right now we have so many people willing to help schools to develop to a new system and a new paradigm. So we need to enable the collaboration with the private sector, with your own community, with all the not-profit sector. There are so many associations that are willing to help, and then that can be very helpful in this transition. So first of all, I think it will be this kind of change. And the second one, of course, is to, in our case, use the funds that we are getting right now. And it's a very big opportunity in order to bring the new technologies to schools where they are not. First of all, connection, I would say, but it's something that is already being done. So we are doing it, and we will be done in I think 2 years. So it's something that is in the process already. So let's think about also other kind of technologies that can help us have a STEM approach. So STEM and also art. So in order to have an interconnected approach to all kind of topics in schools. But if we get the technology, it should be embedded with training for the teachers. So we don't need technologies with no training, because otherwise they are just going to be put in a room that nobody will get in, but we need the technology with the training. So I would rather go less fast in the process, but make sure that where we get the technology, we also get the ability to use it for the best.
Okay, you are my minister. Yeah, I'm voting you. Okay. Hanan?
I would detach immediately the relationship between politics and education. I would detach education systems, fire all Minister of Educations and all the Ministry of Education people, and build a social committee of public education that will be controlled by people with no agenda, with no political agenda. Professional people and people from the street, but no political agenda. We see here in Israel, I don't know if you're aware of what's happening in the political system in Israel today, but it's the worst, the worst. Now I can show you what I would do in my school. See this? This is a kit of a car. It's a smart car. You build it and it can follow a path. Here is the path. You put the car, you build the car, you put it on the path, and it will run and follow the path. Okay? It's some sense of autonomic vehicle, or some feature of autonomic vehicles that children that are interested in can learn by building this kit and following it up. Okay? This costs about $3 in China. Okay? So it's affordable. It's not something that you cannot afford. Okay? Now, if we're talking about my school will be built of learning stations, not classrooms. Learning station is a place in which you can have an ironing, a soldering iron. You can have kits. You can build some stuff from wood. Yeah, you can see the Ferris wheel on top, right? That all these objects generate tremendous amount of need of knowledge in physics, in mathematics, in electronics, take it further, develop escape rooms that deal with history and stories and plots, etc. So you can build a school that will be a whole and nothing but experience for children who find it interesting for them to study by themselves or with friends, like teams. You can do that very easily today, very cheaply today. Every school can do it. The main challenge, I agree with all of you, is the idea of training teachers to be part of this kind of a school. So I would not rely only on teachers. I would rely on teachers to do what they feel best for them. But I will rely on older children that are specializing in specific environments and abilities and skills to be able to be guides for smaller children. Okay, so I would form this kind of across age teams. So my school would be a place in which children would want to go to. In Israel, not too many children want to go to school.
In Italy too. Thank you very much. I like this theme of mutuality. The bigger, the smaller, and I like this station against the room. I think it's a perfect shape of what you'd say. We are perfectly in time. I'm very grateful to Hanan, Yaniv, and Cristina Pozzi. It was a very interesting talk. Thank you to VRE Festival, and see you.
See you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.